Hi everyone. So in this session I'm going to talk about classes, and this is the very beginning of the concept of oops in Python. We'll start with what are classes and some very basic features about classes. Okay. So as you all know that Python is a object oriented programming language, and anything in Python is an object having its own properties or methods. Okay, and classes are a sort of a template that is used to create those objects. So you can say it to be a blueprint for the objects that is getting created in Python. Okay, so let's start how we can define a class. So if at all we have to create a class, we have to start it with a class keyword. Okay, followed with the name of the class. Let's say C1 in our case. Okay, and a parenthesis at the end of it. And in order to put in properties and methods for this class, we have to you have to put a colon and then write details about the uh, properties and methods with an indentation. Okay, so let's say the first property be age. Okay, and let me initialize it with value 10. Okay, so this is it. So this is how basically we define a class. Now to initialize an object out of this class, how will we do it? We'll say we'll put in variable one, say, and then again write the class name followed with parenthesis. Okay. Now if I try to print var one, you will, or rather I let me put it as a type. Okay, this will show you what exactly the type of this variable is. And also I'm trying to print the properties or slash attribute, whatever we call, uh, for the object that we created just now. Okay, so perfect, I save this. I've saved it as session 10.py. Then I'll go to the directory here, uh, try to open cmd screen from this path. So if you are not aware of exactly what I'm trying to do here, so you can go and refer my older videos. You'll get a hang of it. Okay. So now I am going to run this application session 10.py. So as you can see, the type of the object that we just created is a class object with the class name that is C1. Okay, and this 10 denotes the one of the attribute that is there in this class. Okay, so this is how fundamentally we define classes. We create an object out of this class, but then in a real world scenario this is hardly used. I mean, this is very simplified version, so this is hardly used in real life world. The classes are rather used in a much more complicated manner. Okay, now, since I'm started discussing about the class, it won't be complete if I do not talk about this init function. So these functions, which are always initiated with double underscores and end with double underscores, are some special functions in Python. Okay, so uh, fundamentally, this very function is used to initialize different properties. Properties, different attributes that we have in the class once we create a object out of it. Okay, I'll show you what exactly I'm talking about. Then we write here self and whatever the parameter that we are going to pass in while creating the object. Okay, let's say let us make this class more understandable so that we can correlate with our real life scenarios. So let this class be student. Okay, and we have name and age that we are going to pass in, and say I am going to create the first students to one. Okay, let I just remove this statement because now we have understood what the type of this object is. And here it is expecting two of these parameters. Okay, people will say here we also have self, but I'll tell you about the importance of this self in a while. But before that, we just have to put in a name, say Aditya, and say age. Okay. Uh, yeah. And if I print, Now let me initialize the values as an, okay, self dot age, self dot name, self dot name is equal to the name variable that we are passing in, okay, and self dot age is equal to the age parameter that we'll be passing in, okay. So this is the correct time to understand what this self is. So self is the, it's a sort of a variable through which we are denoting the instance that is being created out of this class definition, okay. So basically the very instance of this, say stu1 is the instance that is getting created. So to denote this we are using a self, and it is not mandatory to use self keyword only, but this has been a norm that has been followed all through, so we are just following the same, okay. So self dot name is equal to name. So basically what we are trying to do is that this instance that we are creating here, the parameter name will be assigned the name value that we are passing through this uh, initialization, okay. Same happening with age, which is an attribute, and for this instance of this class, this attribute has been initialized with value 20, okay. I hope that is clear. Okay. So now if I try to print the age of the student, okay, and also the name, and try to save this, go back to my CMD prompt, CMD command line. Uh, there's some mistake it seems. Okay, we have not put the colon. And now if I go back here, I try to execute name student is not defined. Oh, apologies. This is should be small. Now if I go here, so here we see the age of the student getting printed and also the name. Okay. So init function is nothing but it helps to initialize the value of properties once when we create an instance out of it, out of the class. Okay. So that is all about init. Then say we also have one more special function which we call as string str. Okay, where the uh, so the fundamental use of this particular function is to print a certain value or certain statement when the instance created out of the class is being printed as a string. Okay, I'll show you exactly what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's say when I'm going to print the instance or use the instance of this particular class as a string, what exactly I want the application to print. So say let's say I want the application to return that the object is of student class. Okay. Now, if this very instance that we created stu1, if I treat this as a string and try to print it, I hope this is the statement that is going to be returned. Okay. I save this. I go back to my CMD prompt. I run this some. Okay. Oh, I should. There's no bracket expected here. I run this and see. This has been printed. The object is of student class. Okay. So I hope this makes sense that whenever we try to treat the instance as a string, this is what is expected out of it. This particular statement. Okay. I hope it is clear. I'll just reopen a new CMD. Perfect. Uh, Now, like properties, we can also put in methods uh, for the objects. Okay. So here, let's say instead of directly using the property name and property name like age and name here in our case, I am trying to create a function which basically does the same, which is used to print the name and age of the student. Okay. So for that, let's say I define the function as my func. Let this be self, and here what I want the application to print is the student name is let's say str. This is anyway a string, so it won't really matter. And the second statement I want to print is the student age is, and now this is a integer, so I'll try to typecast it into string. Okay, perfect. Now instead of this dedicated print statement here, I am going to use this my func1 function here. So st1 dot my func. See, you get the intelligence helping you out. Okay, perfect. I end this with a parenthesis because since this is a method, whenever we call it, we should always end it with a parenthesis. Okay, now I save this, go back to my cmd prompt, and try to run this application. Perfect. So this is what the output is, and this, as I mean, this is what we desired as well, right? So the student name is Aditya. The student age is 20. Perfect. So this is how we define properties, how we define methods for objects in Python. So that is it for this session today. We'll go in detail about classes. We'll cover concepts of inheritance and other OOPS related concept. So thank you for today. Bye.